Hi, I'm Tim of the 1916 Company. This is Collector's Guide. Back in the early 2010s, Tudor was relaunching itself globally, but the true sneak attack happened in 2012 with the launch of the vintage-inflected Black Bay diver. I have to admit, the better part of a decade later, I thought maybe the product offensive was beginning to stall and perhaps the Black Bay getting a little bit stale, until Tudor loaded a silver bullet. The Black Bay 58-925. This is the collector's take. As with any vintage-inspired watch, a look back is warranted, and we're looking all the way back to 1954 with reference 7922, the first Tudor Submariner. It established the line of Tudor dive watches that continues to this day. But it was 4 years later that the spirit animal of today's Black Bay officially debuted, and that was the 7924, a lovely big crown 200-meter diver. It was, in all but name, the predecessor and the prototype of every Black Bay 58 model. Now, in 2012, we saw the first of the Black Bays, but they were fairly large watches, starting at 41 millimeters and growing larger in some case materials. It wasn't until 2018 and the Black Bay 58 proper that these watches were not just styled to resemble vintage, but actually sized to resemble vintage. Jump forward to 2021, and Tudor threw us for a loop with a combination of taupe and sterling silver. Suffice to say, no one saw it coming. Well, it looks like the vintage 924, but there's more to say here. What you don't notice at first glance is the silver. It actually hides itself quite well. After all, it looks just like steel. It's the taupe that you see. Somewhere between gray and brown, it has lovely warm undertones that gray or slate by themselves would not possess. A little bit like honey in some light, ivory in others, or freshly creamed coffee in the morning. There's more charm in this color than in the titular sterling silver. I'll also say this, it's got beautiful vintage-inspired elements. It's got the big crown, it's got a no-guard profile, it has little nostalgic bevels on the lugs from the era when Rolex and Tudor shared hand-finished cases. With the snowflake-style hands on the dial, it is not strictly a 1950s re-edition, but with the bubble sapphire that looks like a plexi, it definitely has a vintage vibe. Also note, this is an applique dial, so while vintage is the inspiration, this is not a re-edition. It's designed to read and in fact be built like a modern high-spec luxury watch. Well, some of the standout features are the ones that take you back, but those are more aesthetic. Functionally, you'll notice a chunky 60-click bezel with a micro-knurling that's really easy to grip whether your hands are wet, sweaty, or gloved. Internally, it has a Tudor pedigree, caliber MT5400, a different movement for a smaller case that debuted on the BB58s. It's 26 millimeters in diameter by 4.99 thick versus 31.8 by 6.5 for the MT5602 used on the bigger Black Bays. But it has the same tech specs, COSC chronometer certified with a hacking seconds function, 200-meter dive depth. It has a 70-hour power reserve and shock resistant with a full balance bridge and a free-sprung balance. It has everything you'd expect on a bigger Black Bay, but in a more refined and compact package. It looks silver and fairly colorless, just like steel or titanium, at least initially. But it has a wonderfully heavy precious metal pull in the hand and on the wrist, and it's a living material, as it will tarnish over time. Sterling silver is 6 to 8% copper, which is how you start to get a patina with use that will never be the same on any two examples, turning each one into a piece unique. Take a quick look. Two straps are offered. This one features the textile, and it features a lovely Tudor shield motif sterling silver buckle. There's another option, which is made of leather, but if you want to go in the water, take note, there are no bracelets, so it's got to be the textile option. There's also a 5-year warranty, so though this is not a Submariner and it is not a Rolex, it has the same warranty as its big brother. Well, at 47.7 lug to lug and 39 in diameter, this is a great unisex option. If you want to go smaller, there is the Black Bay 54. I'd recommend the 58, however, for a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference, and really no upper limit. It looks nice even on a big wrist because vintage watches always seem more natural in smaller sizes. The first thing you'll see here is this is a lean set, and frankly, that's refreshing. Too much money and too much space is consumed by ornate boxed sets that are destined to take up space in your closet. So we have an outer box that features the Tudor logo. We have an inner box that features a sort of leatherette construction and a velvety inner lining. We have a little hang tag that gives you the serial number of the watch as well as the reference number. We have a cushion on which to mount the watch. Then there's a user's manual. If you're an old hand in luxury watches, probably not of interest to you, but if you're new, you might find this interesting as it details handling limits as well as how the chronometer certification process works. You'll also find that there is a warranty card that allows you to claim anywhere in the world on the warranty should you suffer an issue. And then, pursuant to that, there's a little booklet showing you where the service network locations are located around the world. First of all, if you're a vintage fan, this is for you. If you love the look of vintage, if you love the size and proportions of vintage, if you love the history of the Tudor company and the golden era of the dive watch in the 50s and the 60s that spawned this design, batter up. You've got sterling silver on your plate. Are you a vintage skeptic? If you dislike vintage watches, this might be for you. After all, not everyone is down with the snobs, the frauds, and the prices that circulate on the vintage scene. And a lot of folks hate both patina and fauxtina on a dial, and Tudor, in a stroke of brilliance, gave this watch neither. I would also say if you are a dive watch devotee, I guarantee you this will be the only sterling silver watch in your collection, but it is also a very functional diver, meaning you can enjoy it for its style and its history and its unusual material, but you can also use it in earnest. Who is it not for? Let's say you want actual vintage. Well, guess what? Vintage inflected or vintage tribute is not going to scratch the itch. Hold off. Finally, if you don't want a living material, you might want to avoid this. It will tarnish. It also has a tendency, due to the copper content, to turn some wrists blue. So keep that in mind. And finally, if you want a bracelet, this watch is not for you because it doesn't offer one. First, consider staying within the Tudor family. You've got the Pelagos 39, which costs $4,700 with a bracelet that's only $50 more than the Black Bay 58 sterling silver. The Pelagos is a more modern take on the Tudor dive watch, made of titanium, 39 in diameter, but with the same MT5400 movement. It was the 2023 GPHG Sports Watch Award winner. It comes with a bracelet and an accessory strap, and the bracelet has the T-fit clasp, which is a huge selling point. Consider the Longines Legend Diver, another one of our vintage reeditions. New for 2024 in this form, it's $3,400, 39 millimeters in steel, 1959 design derivation, only 12.7 millimeters thick with no date, dials in green, terracotta, and blue, and this one has a full bracelet. You've got an internal rotating bezel, because this is a super compressor style case. It's ISO 6425 compliant as a dive watch and COSC certified as a chronometer with a silicone hairspring and a 3-day power reserve. Consider the Oris Divers 65, yet another mid-century diver inspiration here, rendered in a more modern form with a sunburst green dial, but it features their caliber 400 for only $3,900, so 38 millimeters in steel, 1965 style, and this is a watch with a 10-year service interval, a 10-year warranty, and a 5-day power reserve. Well, it's only 100 meters water resistant. That's going to be more than enough for most. And it has a lovely and attractive period rivet style bracelet. And though not certified as a chronometer, this exclusive caliber is highly anti-magnetic and tested to no worse than +5, -3 from the factory. If you want to look for something that costs a bit less, but offers a completely different sensibility than the Swiss, consider the Seiko Prospect S93. This is a 1965 re-edition, 1,965 pieces. It's stainless steel. It's 38 millimeters in diameter by 12.5 thick. It comes from Japan. For $3,500, you get a 6L37 manufacturer automatic caliber, a silicone strap, 45-hour power reserve. And while it's not a very accurate timekeeper at +15 -10 per 24, it's priced right, and it definitely has the look of a vintage Seiko with the diveability of a modern watch. I have to admit, on the face of it, sterling silver, not a great material for a watch. It's not as opulent as platinum, it's not as visible as gold, and it's not as strong as steel. It makes even less sense on a utilitarian dive watch. And yet, in the form of the Black Bay 58-925, it is captivating and endlessly beguiling. And that is the collector's take.